So I will be talking about applications of blockchain that we working on in Ukraine. So I came here all over from Ukraine. Economy of Ukraine probably is similar to Vietnam. It's not that developed yet. And it's right time to new technologies to disrupt old technologies. And I will be explaining how and where blockchain is better and why we should apply it for certain cases. A little bit about myself. So I'm originally a cryptographer, and I worked on different projects like banking projects, security projects, public infrastructures, a lot of things. I've been involved into blockchain industry since 2014, where I went to Silicon Valley and joined a very famous startup. And since then, I've been traveling a lot and giving seminars around the world about what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain. And a little bit afterwards, I started together with partners a company that does blockchain R&D. And we, initially we started as a consultancy company, but now we moved into financial sector and building products and platforms, open source platforms to build commercial applications. It's a simple question. Why money can be sent as easy as email? You can send message to anybody in the world in a second for free, like email or Facebook or WeChat, doesn't matter. But with money, it doesn't work like this. You need to wait, sometimes a few days, sometimes even more, if you want to settle securities. And you have many borders and controls, like everything. And it's not that easy, and it should be changed. So when Bitcoin was invented, it gave us two things. First is that you can control your money 100%. So when you control your private key, means that you control your money. And second insight was that the value could be transferred over internet. Before Bitcoin, you could only transfer obligations of third party. That's the two key things that Bitcoin introduced. And basically, inventor of Bitcoin was probably thinking about creating something like digital gold. Something that nobody controls, something that is fully decentralized, so there is no central point of failure, something that is limited into existence, and basically it succeeded. A few key features of Bitcoin is like predictable supply, absence of borders, and no point of failure. Bitcoin itself is obviously not the best money ever. It is good for certain use cases. I will be talking about them later, but it has certain problems that prevent Bitcoin from using in financial industry widely. And first of them is scalability issues. Currently, you can't do more than 3 transactions per second. Price of transaction is rising, and right now it's approximately 7 cents per transaction, which is not suitable for country like Ukraine, because if you buy bread and you pay 30% of price as a commission, it's not good. Privacy issues are still there because there is a public blockchain and everybody sees everybody's transactions. It's good for auditing, but it's bad for businesses because everybody can see what's going on. And high volatility, since it's a new asset, it's a problem. So obviously you can solve some of these problems with cryptography, with technology, but it's just, and notice that it's not a perfect money. But what Bitcoin showed financial industry and why everybody is interested, why all banks publish reports, why banks create consortiums, because they see the hidden benefits. And hidden benefits are transparency, integrity of database of transactions, this thing that you can combine transaction and settlement, and that you can use open source software. So basically, before Bitcoin, you couldn't have a fully decentralized system, financial system, that is open source, and where you have no chargebacks, where you don't need to wait until like final confirmation, so transaction is settled instantly. So financial industry was inspired by this example, so they wanted to have the same into their products. That's pretty like common sense. So here we come to what is blockchain. Basically, blockchain is no more than an approach. It's not even a technology, it's just an approach to store and synchronize data in a non-trusted environment. So where you have multiple actors, like banks, commercial banks that don't trust each other, they could run blockchain between themselves in order to synchronize balances, so do reconciliation. Right now they use central bank to do that, or SWIFT. So blockchain is approach to handle data and transactions. But people, when they say blockchain, they mean different things. And that's always a confusion, because there's three things that you could basically mean. First is specifically Bitcoin blockchain. That's where people say blockchain is the most secure thing in the world. Yes, Bitcoin blockchain is probably yes. But not blockchain as a technology, as an approach, because it's just a pure theory. It's not something. And third, what people mean is like private blockchains. So if you run blockchain between banks, it's obviously a private blockchain, and security of this blockchain will depend on basically amount of trust that you place to all the players. So, and due to like media that didn't pay any attention to what's this, what is the difference, people imagined completely like fairy tale use cases, that blockchain can save us from dying, or it can bring happiness to everybody. So, but it's not true. So it's just common sense at the end. I will be a little bit controversial. Come on. Yeah. And I will say that blockchain won't make remittances cheaper in the global scale. When people use blockchain or Bitcoin to do remittances, they usually exploit existing situation with regulation. For corridors, where regulation is so heavy, or nobody is interested in these corridors, Bitcoin can be cheaper because you don't need to do KYC, you don't need to spend a lot of money on checking your customers, so on and so forth. But at the end, trusted networks are always cheaper than trustless. So Western Union could always be cheaper than any instant token, because they have a lot of capital and they could do netting. And for example, for Bitcoin, you also have this type of networks, like Lightning Network, that is basically a trusted network between participants, and they do netting between each other. And second is that to pay with Bitcoin, you need to do exchange on both sides. It only will be beneficial to do these payments if price difference is basically on your side. So for example, Bitcoin is more expensive in China and less expensive in Ukraine. So if you pay with Bitcoin from Ukraine to China, you benefit from like 2 to 5%. But vice versa, it won't work. So it means that this type of systems will always be limited by very small use case. And as soon as everybody goes there, it won't be hidden path already. And the price will be the same with traditional technology or Bitcoin. But where is the benefits? I'll tell about that. At the end, our world needs financial web. It's a network of trust between institutions where you can establish peer-to-peer connections. So where you don't need central point that controls flows of money. So right now, because of regulation and borders, you have to basically use certain services, like there are like 3 clearing houses in the world, or like Visa and MasterCard as the main payment providers. But if everybody is connected to everybody, payments essentially will be, like the fees will be essentially close to zero. And what we are doing is building protocols for financial web. And financial web will be anyway open source. It's like Swift, but without Swift. So at the end, what we will have is a vertical stack of technologies, starting from user applications like mobile bank, banking software, exchange software, clearinghouse or CSD software, and regulator software that will use the same protocol to talk to each other, and transactions will be settled instantly. Clear it. Doesn't matter. Is it a security or money or debts, bonds? Essentially, it's just a number in the database. So the key insight that blockchain shows us is that when you have digital assets that are controlled with private keys, you could do a lot of use cases that are much cheaper than using traditional technology. So blockchain is, again, it's about price of solutions. It's not about, at first it's just about price. And second, as soon as you have digital assets, you could create something like smart contracts that doesn't exist now. So what we are working on in Ukraine. First is blockchain-based core banking system. Very simple thing. It's just an accounting system for a bank that stores all balances in a ledger, in a cryptographic ledger, and has an APIs to customers or other banks. So we built this platform together with a bank, and now we're integrating in other banks, basically selling it. So it comes together with mobile applications where users fully control their money. It means that private key sits on the device. And then there is an API to credit card processor and basically web internet bank. So just an accounting system, blockchain is used to record balances and to synchronize data within a bank. Like, no innovation, I would say. But as soon as you have crypto APIs, your mobile application is able to manage accounts in different banks because it's just the same as keeping private keys from different ledgers. So what you could do next is a payment network. The payment network between banks that have the same APIs, where your core network could basically do netting between all these banks and process payments. And it could be also be decentralized. So this, what's inside, is basically a ledger and decentralized order book where all the offers come and where is the matched. And it's really powerful because, again, payments could be settled in a second. You don't need to wait until central banks does clearing at the end of the day. It's just cryptography. Because all changes are instantly appeared in ledgers of banks. The next case is the most disruptive one. It's a decentralized auction. And it's used to sell government property. I don't know, probably in Vietnam too, but in Ukraine, since Soviet Union time, we have a lot of properties that belongs to government, like plants or land or different things. And we had previously government selling these resources on centralized auctions that fully controlled by specific ministry. 2 years ago, one NGO came up with an idea of having the auction that will have different commercial platforms that basically invite users and work with a core system via APIs. It worked really well. Right now, this open source system processes billions of dollars, and it actually won a few international awards. Things are doing good, but this NGO realized that they built a monster. Because if somebody can control the core of the auction system, they can control acceptance of bids, and they can actually control who will win the auction. So you can build corruption in technology, which is really not good. So then they came up with the idea of decentralized auction, where government can't control the trading, who bids how much. So in this case, trading platforms will reach consensus together about all the flow of the auction and about all bids that are there, and nobody can actually influence the system. So they came up to us, they went to us, and they asked us to build this system. So we built it, also open source, we even built it for free. So we connected it to two biggest banks in Ukraine, and actually it's the first biggest bank in Ukraine. They are building their own trading platform. This bank is probably the most innovative bank in the world. They have everything, like just anything you can imagine, they already built. And they have 25 million customers, and they're promoting like e-government services like really hard. I will show a short video that will explain how it works. Okay, the use cases for the auction is basically, okay, privatization, selling government property. Second, selling rights to use natural resources. Third is selling collateral of banks. That's why banks are interested, because right now they are selling their collateral on their like own trading websites. They're not very usable at all, and there could be conflict of interest between owner of the bank and top managers, where top managers are selling collateral like cheaper to their like friends and family, and obviously owner is not happy with that. So when you have decentralized auction, where as soon as you put some property or title, it gets distributed between all trading platforms, and all users of these trading platforms are able to see and bid for this property. It becomes like a network of exchanges, very efficient. So yeah, okay. I'll explain it. Could you make sometimes a... So we have trading platforms that are registered. There could be a lot of them. Anybody can become a trading platform. Then government puts some title for like property. Everybody gets that. Users are registered with trading platforms, paying registration fees to banking account of trading platforms. Okay, yeah, please. No, stop. So, Domain, stop. So, users are paying registration fees to banking account of particular trading platform, and then bank issues a receipt of payment that is signed by the bank, and it gets added to the network, to the blockchain, and everybody, it's an open system, everybody can verify that particular user actually paid registration fee and check KYC information. But what's more important is that now we can determine which trading platforms have trust from users. And that's why trading platforms that appeared like yesterday, because anybody can become a trading platform. Trading platforms that don't have any users, they don't have any right to vote in this system, to reach consensus. That's why it's very hard to corrupt this system. As soon as user sees some attempts to misbehave from trading platform, he will join another platform and will do bids there. So it's a fair system where trust is determined by money that user basically delivers to trading platform. Okay, so receipt is added to the blockchain, and now bidding starts. So everybody places their bids, and the whole network sees who bid how. And in the end, the highest bid is determined, and we see who is the winner, and the winner gets right to buy this property from government. For expensive objects like plants, users also have to place security deposits like 10% from the price. First, it's fine. So we solved, basically, it's the biggest bank in Ukraine, like Microsoft helped with Azure, and yeah, that's we, and it's this NGO that basically is pushing this project. So they signed up 5 districts of Ukraine, chief president staff, and many local communities. Basically, what happens in Ukraine, that in order to integrate such system, you don't need to pass law in the beginning. You just implement it, it's already implemented. You show that it works, and then as soon as there is a social pressure, you pass the law. So the previous version of the auction that is centralized, now by law, by any government organization, by law is obliged to use it. So we hope that this version, the centralized one, will be used very soon, all around Ukraine. We hope that the first trade, real trade, will happen this month. So it's already there. And it's open source, you can take it and you can use it if you have a bank that allows you to retrieve signed receipts of payments. But it doesn't breach any security inside a bank. It's very simple. So that's it. That's a main use cases that we're working now, and they will be ready soon. And as I said, we have a platform. It's also open source that allows to build such things, allows to issue digital assets, and do cross-blockchain settlement. 25 people working on basically all use cases that you can imagine with Bitcoin and blockchain and any digital assets. That's how we get experience with this, because we build wallets, exchanges, infrastructures to issue complementary currencies, so on and so forth. At the end, blockchain is just about price of solution. So can you guess how much money it took to build a core banking system on blockchain? 40,000 to build full core banking system for transaction bank. It's about price, and why price is lower? Because you already have a lot of open source code base that is doing the same thing as traditional one. And I need to notice that it's applicable to transactional bank, where you don't have the management of credits and many things, but for transactional bank, it's really there. So technology is already ready, and you can take and use it. You don't need to build it from scratch. And then you receive ability to issue digital assets. And with digital assets, you can do a lot of things, such as smart contracts, but it's in the future.